Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something you wanted to do on account of you thought that someone else would be upset by it? Well, of course you have. We all do this. And we all live under this idea, under this guise, and sometimes it's called a disguise, that what we have to say, what's on our heart isn't as important as what's on someone else's heart, isn't as important as someone else. So, what belief is that? And how did we come to that belief in the first place? So, we're going to talk about beliefs today. And so right out here, y'all are in my bedroom, and right out there is a little, it's just a little area with plants in it. Now, where I come from, that's not the kind of thing that we usually see outside of our bedroom window. But why is that? Hello, you guys. Nice to see you. So we're going to talk about beliefs tonight, because the thing is that we hold ourselves back from having a full life. We hold ourselves back from speaking our own truth. We hold ourselves back from trying new things. And the word try denotes that you're going to be unsuccessful. So all of these ideas that become a thought that turn into actions are what keeps us, sometimes stagnant, sometimes not exploring, sometimes not expanding, sometimes not growing. And then it turns out that what you thought that was being kind by holding back, saying something, would have been vitally important to that person that you didn't say it to. So let's look at what exactly a belief is. Well, we all have beliefs about good manners. We all have beliefs about the way you conduct yourself. So where did they come from? Most often, when you're little, you don't have a bunch of beliefs about what to do or what not to do. You go exploring around until someone pulls you back and says you're not allowed to do that, whether it's put your finger in a light socket or try something new or put something in your mouth like dirt, And the trick about the dirt is that we eat over 10 pounds of dirt in our lifetime. And however, is that we're taught to leave these things alone. So beliefs are instilled in us from a very early age. And they come from the generation before us. Now, I don't know about you all, but if you look to your great-grandparents, if you happen to know them, are you living out of the same beliefs that they were? Most likely not. So beliefs are something that are very mutable. However, we think that they're like this window here and very solid. And we grow up in a certain modality, in a certain way of thinking, in a certain way of being. And the beautiful part about being in a different country is that I get to experience, without understanding the language, just looking at the body language, about what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate. Turns out that a lot of things that we do in the culture in the United States are not the same things that they do here. They're not the same things they do in Germany. They're not the same things that they do in Canada. And yet we have this set idea about our beliefs. So if a belief is an idea that became a thought, and that thought was ingrained in action, then we hold on to it like it is vital in our life. What if that isn't really true? What if our beliefs can be very mutable, very changeable, very adaptable? You know, I grew up in a house that was in conflict about religion. Did we practice Catholicism? Did we practice being a Methodist? And it went back and forth. So I had the great permission to go and explore lots of different religions because I didn't grow up in a belief that there was only this one way of looking at the world. I grew up, they were in conflict, but what I got out of that conflict wasn't an entrenched belief. It was an ability to explore and find out for myself. Hey, Lorene. Hi, Jackie. Good to see you. So what is it that is the foundation of your life? And as you look at it, those are probably beliefs that you're holding on to as if they're not changeable. However, if we go back a couple of generations, you'll notice that the beliefs that those folks were holding on to are not the same beliefs that we carry today. You know, if you go back far enough, there wasn't a belief that you could get inside of something that would take off from the land and fly, right? Before that, there wasn't even a belief that automobiles and engines and wheels could make you get from point A to point B. And so when we come to embody the idea that a belief is something that's mutable, it's changeable, it's adaptable, we have a lot of freedom. However, we often don't give ourselves enough credence to figure out what's important to us so that we can therefore change our beliefs. And we go along thinking that, oh, it's got to be like this. You know, there's gender beliefs that are being blown out of the water right now, that if you went back and talked to my grandparents, they didn't have the same beliefs. They had a very firm and concrete belief about what boys do and what girls do, and this is the way that it is. So first of all, you may never have heard, and you might not take it in, that beliefs are absolutely changeable. They're absolutely adaptable. Going to another culture is a really fabulous way to shift that. You know, here things close in the afternoon. The market will be open until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It closes, it opens again at 7 o'clock in the evening. And during that lax time, that lull time, well, some of those folks have the ability to go and relax and renew and rejuvenate, reconnect with their families. Now, where I come from, in the Pacific Northwest, no one follows that tradition. However, with the weather and the way that things are here, this is their modality of living. This is their belief about how life is. Earlier today, I was listening to Sadhguru, who said that he went to the United States and they took him to a restaurant and it was TGIF Day. And he says, so what is this TGIF? And they were like, thank God it's Friday. And they told him that people were excited because it was the end of the week and they were looking forward to, they were living for the weekend. Well, he introduced this idea that if you're at work and you think that your work is sucking the life out of you, I talk about having had a soul-sucking job, and that you are living for the weekend, then are you actually dead for the rest of the week? So 5 days a week, you go and you do something that sucks the life out of you. You're living for the weekend. It gets to be Friday and it's TGIF. So he talks about how from the moment you're born until the moment you fall over dead, it is your life. Now, most of us don't have that belief. We don't have the belief that, like I conjured up 26 years ago, that I'm not going to do that any longer. My life is valuable to me. My life is worth living. And if I'm just waiting for the weekend, thank God it's Friday, then Am I walking around dead the rest of the time? Am I walking around not feeling fulfilled, not feeling joyous because I have a belief that a job is a job? And when you can step away from that, when you can look at all of your life, no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's doing the dishes or whether it's cooking or whether it's walking to the store or buying your groceries or driving your car, it's all part of your life. This isn't something that we were taught, but it is something you can embody. It does mean that you have a look at your life. What beliefs are you living out of? Are they serving you? And if they're not serving you, I have this bust your bogus beliefs. And so I'll be doing a master class in that probably in a couple of months, but not before that. So this is just to get you thinking about this. Are you living out of beliefs that are serving you, or are you living out of beliefs that are holding you back? Do you believe that right outside your bedroom door, you can create a little garden, you can put a light, look at how beautiful that is. You can put a light out there. You can have this space that serves no other purpose other than creating beauty. I was talking to someone earlier today about the difference in the style here. The style here is you have a sidewalk and then you have a concrete wall that has a door in it. And then you go through that door into the rest of the environment, which has often got the most beautiful courtyards. A lot of these homes have pools in them. Not the giant pools that we have, but like plunge pools. And so they have this belief that they don't need to have a front yard that no one ever goes into. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever gone by all those houses and there's nobody in the front yard? It's a beautiful front yard. It's all manicured. It's all pretty, but there's no life in it. Well, here they have a completely different value system. And they embody this value system that says, I don't have to show you my beautiful garden. I know it's there. You don't need to know it's there. And so they have a different style of life. So as they're doing this, as they are having not a big front yard with pretty flowers and grass that needs watering and isn't indigenous to the area, they have nothing. And you might look and you go, oh, this is very unattractive. But when the door opens and when you get invited inside the casa, what you see is it's beautiful. This Merida is called the White City because you see the cement there. Well, it's all plastered. And it's so humid here that the plaster actually only lasts for a little while and then it crumbles. So you see a lot of this on the sidewalks. The sidewalks are all uneven, just like they were in Bali. But there's a lot of hidden treasures. And what you'll notice is that there's a joy and a lifefulness here that we often don't see. I was at a Cuban restaurant and I put a post on Shaman Weaver, Sheila Baker earlier tonight. And what was there was that this woman and her husband and her 3 children came from Cuba. And they're in Merida now while they are attempting to emigrate to Texas. And so there were all the kids were there, all 3 kids. Her husband is the chef. And it's interesting because the CH, the way that it's pronounced in church, was the same way that she was pronouncing it in chef. We say chef, and she was saying her esposa, that's her husband, is a chef. And so it was beautiful to hear that. She also said that my 3 children are here working. And in in Cuba, the education is paid for. Here in Mexico, the parents must pay for the education. And so there's a different style here. So she said, you know, in order for my kids to have school, they need to work. And in this beautiful restaurant, everyone was there. They were having a good time. They were all smiling. There was music. You can hear the music over there. But all of these things were completely different than the beliefs that we hold on to and we think are important in our culture. So when you have this ability to travel a bit, when you have this ability to to taste different cultures. You know, I remember when I first moved from Canada to the United States, people actually thought, this was 1982, they actually thought we lived in igloos and they wondered, did we have electricity? So it's a really good idea to expand yourself, to learn about other cultures, to taste the food from there. You know, they love pizza here, by the way. It's just the most amazing thing. And so they've appropriated that. They also, this Cuban restaurant we had pig in a big roast pig. So I was talking to the chef and I was saying, oh, you know, how many hours did it take to cook this pig? And he said he got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to put the pig underground and to roast it, so that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was there for us to have this amazing, beautiful buffet. There are not a lot of vegetables here, so for those of us, not me, I'm not really a vegetable girl, so I'm okay. But for those of us that think that all of those vegetables are necessary, this isn't a culture that has that. Those vegetables don't naturally grow here. So as we get to look at our own beliefs and which beliefs are serving you and which beliefs are holding you back. You know, if you believe that, you know, you've got to have a job and you've got to get there at 9 o'clock in the morning and you leave at 5, but maybe you work 60 hours a week and that's your belief, then is that breathing life into you or is it sucking life out of you? When you find another way that doesn't look like what you've been culturally restricted by, is there a way for you to shift and to be able to do that? You know, last week I talked about 2 different Uber drivers that I had. Both of them were women. And both of them were driving Uber so they could practice their English. One of them was a lawyer. Now think about that. How many of us in the United States think that an attorney gets in an Uber and drives after work? Not in our belief, right? The other woman works for an aerospace engineering company, and she had been flown to Cleveland. And she said that the reason that she was driving, she had 2 different reasons. And this was with my very limited Spanish and her very limited English. I learned all these things about these people just because I was like, so is this your only job? You know, what are you doing? The reason that she was driving for Uber was so that she could save enough money to buy a piece of property here in Mexico, be able to travel, and to be able to work for an American company and have good enough English. I'm a native speaker and there we go mucking it about, so that she could do that. But her belief wasn't, well, I'm working for an aerospace engineering company, therefore I don't drive Uber. It was, I'm going to do this in the belief that I'm going to be able to acquire that. So when we hold on to beliefs that aren't serving us, and what I've conjured up is that if I have a desire, and a desire is bigger than a want denotes lack, but a desire is something really on my heart. If I have a desire, like, you know, to trip off to Mexico, And I haven't done that. What is it that's holding me back from doing that? And as I become cognizant of that, as I become aware of that, then I can look and I can go, oh, well, my family never really traveled. And I never really went further than like 20, 30 miles from my house. And I really wasn't curious. But if those things are holding you right where you are and not allowing you to expand and move out into the world, then have a little moment and, write down your desires. What do you truly, truly desire? I talk about it in terms of non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables about life? And if those non-negotiables are such that you haven't fulfilled yet, then is there perhaps a belief that's holding you back? Because what I have experienced, if I have a desire and I haven't attained it, accomplishment, achieved it, got it, however you want to think about it, then there is most likely a belief that I have that is holding me back from that. Now, I might think that that's my belief, but if I take a few moments and I look back, I do some retrospection, and I look back to, well, what was it like for my parents? I was very fortunate. My parents traveled. My dad traveled to Iran, they went to Thailand, they went to France, they went to other places, but it was for work. They didn't travel for fun. Now, if I look back and I go, oh, if I'm going to do something, it's got to have a purpose. It's got to be for work. Then I can look at that and I can go, oh, I got that belief from my parents. And I can source that belief back to where did it come from. Knowing where it came from, I'm then freed up to go, does it work for me? If it doesn't work for me, I'm then even more freed up to go, I'm not going to continue to have that belief. And I can give that belief back to where it came from. And then that allows me the freedom to have a brand new belief about something. Oh, I can travel the world. Oh, I am able to, and then whatever. If I were to have a desire to have a certain vehicle, well, if you've been with me long enough, you've heard this story. When I was 16, my dad told me that if you buy a new car, the moment you drive it off the curb there, it drops in value. And so guess what? In my entire life, I've only ever had one new car. So I adopted and then adapted my value system to never having a new car, which has benefits and not so much. Now, if I desire a new vehicle, then it's useful in a practical way to go ahead and give that belief back to my dad, who did it out of very loving kindness, had no idea that it was going to stop me from having all kinds of new things. But I can give that back to him, and then I can be free because I've released myself, I've dropped that, I've given it back to where it came from, and then I'm freed up to be able to have a new belief. So, what beliefs are holding you back? And if when you notice that there's something you desire, like maybe you desire to create this right outside of your bedroom, but you're like, oh, that's nobody does that. Nobody in my neighborhood does that. One of the things that I noticed as I was traveling around in Seattle before I left was a lot of folks are converting their front yard into growing food. I think that is a really fabulous idea. Now, there was a time when if you had have done that, your neighbors would have been up in arms. However, things have changed. So is this something that you can do? Is it a belief that you can begin to hold, that, I need to cultivate my own food. I need to grow things for myself that nourish my soul, that nourish my body. And as a matter of fact, there's these things called vertical gardens. So you don't have to be horizontal about it. You can build them vertically. They take up a whole lot less space and they're very, very productive. Now, if I had have introduced that idea to my mother, she would have just thought that was bonkers. But when you allow yourself to grow and evolve and change, get new beliefs about how things work, if you have a front yard that is just got a bunch of grass out there that you have to water and then you have to mow, maybe it's time in our lives to start thinking on a more global kind of philosophy. And maybe it's time for us to let go of, what will my neighbors say if I dig up my front yard and I plant corn? You might just inspire them. What I noticed is that when we do something different, I've gotten notes from people all over the world that are like, oh, I'm inspired by your travels. And I haven't even shown you a third of what I've seen, but they're inspired by that. So how can you be inspirational? How can you let go of a belief that you've got to be small and quiet and polite and start to step into what really truly makes your heart sing? Because you only have one little life. And if you are waiting for the weekend and you're in drudgery 5 of your 7 days a week, is that really having a life? I feel so incredibly blessed that 26 years ago, and let's see, August to September to October, October to November, and almost 3 months. So all those years ago, plus almost 3 months, I went, you know what? I can't do this any longer. This is not making my heart sing. And you know what? I am here, I'm thriving, I'm having a beautiful life. And I decided that living 7 days a week was a much better idea than living 2 days a week. So is there something in your life that you can begin to shift? Is there some way that you can bring more life into your life so that you're not just waiting? So, all right, that's a riot. So, I've reached my daily limit. There's a belief for you. So, is there something in your life that you are ready to embark on that will bring you more joy, that will bring you more happiness, and that will make you laugh more? And if you get disconnected, then it's okay for you to reconnect. So, thank you for being here. I'm going to sign off before I get disconnected again. And know that it's okay for you to build a garden right outside your bedroom that serves no purpose whatsoever other than to just make it look beautiful. So, speaking of beautiful, thank you, beautiful souls, for being here. And if you're watching the replay, thank you very much for that. Shamanic Journey, the way to go. So I'll be opening a membership up in a couple of months for those of you who want to join me regularly. And in the meanwhile, remember, your heart radiates out 360 degrees. So I've been a little grumpy stiltskin for a bit, and I realized that, you know what, it's just coming back to me. So now it's time to just free myself up, to free yourself up. Do what you love, do more of what you love, watch Sadhguru because he's brilliant, and then don't just live for the weekend. All right, beautiful souls, have a fabulous time, and remember, in case no one has told you so far today, you are amazing. All right, bye-bye.